Perfect.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. We're getting ready to go live on Facebook as well, so I'm going live. And we are there. So setting us up. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being early. And hopefully that should be working. You never know these days. So, all right. We are streaming live on Facebook. Hi, Becky. Nice to see you. We are thrilled to be here this morning. We got a lot of great things to share with all of you. Let's see who's on with us. Let us know where you're tuning in from, everyone. Give us a shout out. I know we've got New England and Midwest on here, and maybe even some other Remaxers from other parts of the country. So let us know. Becky from Minnesota, hello. Look at that, Kayla. We got lots of excited people. New Hampshire, we got Minnesota. Phil Landy, hello, buddy, from Indianapolis. Good to see you. Peabody, Mass. Russ Burke from Greenwood. Hey, Russ. A lot of Indiana people here to support you, Kayla.
Awesome.
Dan Bertelson, what's up, buddy? Madison, Wisconsin. Go Badgers. We've got Maine in the house from Edward. Hi, Edward. Jason. So by the excitement, I am assuming everyone can see us and hear us okay. And so we've got our sound and video check. Connecticut in the house, and we've got Minneapolis. We got 1 minute to go, everyone. So we're excited to have you here. All right. Thanks for checking in with us, everyone. We are very thrilled to be here and be your host this morning. Just 1 second to go and we'll get going. And thanks, everyone. I know some of you are streaming us live on your own groups and on Facebook. This virtual world that we're all living in right now is pretty amazing. And we're all staying, I think, even closer connected than we ever were before. That's just my assessment. All right. So we are at 9 a.m. Central Time and 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So welcome everyone from Remax, especially Remax INTEGRA, but I know some folks from other Remax regions have joined us since we've promoted this on Facebook. So we welcome everyone. So welcome to Tech Tuesday, the Remax Business Building Series. My name is Michelle Hoyt and I am your host. And I have a very special guest with me today who I will let introduce herself in just a moment. But I just wanted to just make mention, I think you're all super familiar with Zoom by now, and if you aren't, then you will be in a matter of moments. But Zoom is we're on a webinar right now, so you are in listen-only mode. I know you can see us, and we're on camera, and however, we cannot see you, but we want to hear from you. So what I would do is encourage you to ask your questions, because you will have an opportunity to ask Kayla lots of questions on the Q&A box. So you'll notice down below there's a chat box and there's also a Q&A box when you hover down to the bottom of your screen. So that's what we are going to do during this session. So what we're doing this time, so we had originally started out to say this series was 30 minutes, but based on last week's success, we went an hour where we had about 45 minutes of content and we had lots of questions for Brad, who was our guest from Colorado, talking about BombBomb and video scripts. So today's session is going to focus on taking your listing presentations to the virtual world. And there's no better person than my special guest today to talk to you about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some of her impressive credentials, and we're going to focus on that. So let's look at this. Hold on a second. Let me pull this slide up for Kayla. And hold on. Okay, maybe I have it. I have last week's. All right, let's go ahead and I'm going to stop the share on that. We'll just have Kayla. Kayla, introduce yourself to everyone and tell us which office that you're from and what city you're from, and some of the things that you do in the community and what you're all about in your background. So welcome, Kayla, to our Tech Tuesday.
Absolutely. Hello. Good morning, everyone. So I am from Remax Integrity, and we are in Columbia City, Indiana. For those of you who are familiar with Indiana, that's really close to Fort Wayne. Let me think. So in the community, I am involved with our Main Street Association. So I help revitalize our Columbia City downtown district. And I have been in the business for about 9 years. I've been licensed for 5. And I started in the business as a marketing director and administrative assistant for a top producer in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And then when I got my licensing, I moved to Columbia City for a brief time, was at a local independent, and then I realized what Remax can provide for us as the franchise. So I quickly moved over to Remax. And yeah,
That's
it looks
great.
like you
and
have
I
all my
found your
community
slide.
involvement. So. Perfect.
Well, I think it's important for you to, it's important for you to talk about that, because Kayla's a busy mom of 2, and she still manages to make time for the community. So you want to share a little bit about a couple of these organizations that you've been involved in, especially RPAC.
Yeah, so for a brief time I did, I was on the RPAC board, which is really important. Our local RPAC does contribute to the national RPAC, which, you know, is really important for realtors to be a part of, because that gives the pressing matters that we would like for in government to have bills passed and things that are for the local and national realtors. And then I do a lot with junior achievement. So that's going into the local schools and teaching them about business, and about how to be an entrepreneur and things like that. So.
Okay. And, you know, the special emphasis I want everyone to know about Kayla is she is a marketing guru and very creative. Some of you might know Kayla from the creative group on Facebook, so you might recognize her name. She's a very active member of that group. And by the way, for referrals, just so you know, Columbia City, as she mentioned, is just outside of Fort Wayne. Here's her contact information. We will show it again at the end of the session. So please think of her when you have clients that may be moving to Northeast Indiana, and keep her in mind for that. So we're gonna go ahead and take this off the screen. Like I said, we're very excited to have her here. So Kayla, tell us more in depth about what your background is in marketing and how it's helped you now that you're in real estate.
Absolutely. So when I started in marketing, I actually went to IPFW here in Fort Wayne, which is Indiana and Purdue universities combined. I started there for marketing, and I quickly got my job with the realtor in Fort Wayne, and I did a lot of marketing for him. So I've had the past 9 years of experience in real estate marketing. And then as far as everything else goes, I just try to stay really current. So I do read a lot of the blogs. I watch a lot of videos. I could be better with my videos for like Facebook Live and things like that, but I'm getting better, and this is an attempt, so.
Well, you're doing great. So I've met Kayla when she, you know, her franchise Remax Integrity first opened, and it's hard to believe it's been almost 5 years. Which is great. So it's exciting, and they've taken over the town. They've taken over Columbia City. There's so many cool things they're doing in marketing. There's a Remax branded bouncy house for the kids, and lots of things happening in they're very involved in the community. So when it comes to apps and programs, Kayla, what are your go-to programs that you use on a regular basis to create your materials? And we will share her materials, by the way, here shortly.
Well, my go-to is Canva, which Michelle, I know that you promote that quite a bit in your trainings. I absolutely love Canva. It's such a great tool. They have the free Canva, but I think it's worth the $12 a month to get the pro, because you can put in the color codes for Remax, and you can put the logos in and things like that. So that saves me a lot of time. I do most of my marketing work on there. So
That's good. And I think a lot of the audience also uses Canva, and that's good to know because personally I use the free account. But one thing that Kayla mentioned that's really important, everyone, if you haven't done this, go to the marketing portal on Mac Center and download the graphics and standards manual, because there's a whole page, I believe it's page 23, dedicated to the color palette. That's the official colors for Remax. It is important that you're using those colors, but it makes it easy for you because they have the pigment colors in there, and you just enter those into any program like Canva, or if you're really advanced on Photoshop and those type of programs. So that's the key, is to make sure that you are branding appropriately, but then everything matches, because that's one of the keys in marketing, isn't it, Kayla, where you've got to make sure everything just flows well. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about what is your approach. Yeah, of course. What's your approach, Kayla, to creating listing presentations? So what everyone kind of has been adjusting to in today's time is doing everything they were doing before, but now they have to do it from afar. I mean, we see it happening. Saturday Night Live is doing things on Zoom, and you've got every celebrity interview that you see on every show now, everyone's coming in from their living rooms. Even Ellen's doing it. So how did you approach your listing presentations before? And how did you make sure that those were working for you? And then we'll talk more about how you're doing them today.
Sure. Well, like most agents, I did two-step appointments. So I did the CMA, I usually went out for about 30 minutes to an hour to get acquainted with the house and with the clients. And I did that so then that way I could take some nice notes, maybe some photos, things on the house. And then the second part is where I gave them their numbers and went on about the marketing spiel. So what I'm doing now, and I've only done one, but I've done more buyers than I have listings, to be honest with you, but it's been working. So what I did with them was I had them do the Zoom call with me, and then I had them show me the house. So I had them walk me around like I would have been with them side by side. So instead of a two-step appointment, I just did the one step, and I just had all my materials ready to present to them after they walked me around the house.
So that's great. So you had them take their laptop and just walk around and show you everything, and then you were able to take notes and ask questions. So that's fantastic. And I think some of you might be doing that on FaceTime or Skype or Google Hangout or whatever video tool. Facebook Messenger has video now, including on desktop. I haven't tried it on desktop yet, but that's great, Kayla. So, and how was that? How did they, were they engaged? How did that change, or how did that, I guess, create the dynamics of the relationship you had with that person?
Well, I already knew them pretty well, so that helped. I actually joked around with them, and causing a little bit of lightness in the pandemic that we have right now definitely helps. So I reminded them about in The Office how, if any of you have watched The Office, how they take Pam around and they show her the computer. So I just said, pretend that I'm Pam and show me around. So that kind of the lightheartedness really helped. And at first it was probably a little awkward, but just trying to be as regular and as normal as possible, and give out your personality, and being authentic is definitely key for any presentation, but especially when you're in the virtual world right now, being as authentic as you can is perfect. So.
Right, absolutely. And keeping it positive. And that's something you're really good at, Kayla. You just have such a bright personality, and people gravitate towards that, which is fantastic. So you did mention that you use Zoom quite a bit. So I assume you're taking advantage of the free Zoom account that Remax has provided. Talk that through with us and share some advice for, there may be some of your peers that are watching right now that haven't taken advantage of that, and why they should.
Absolutely. So I have definitely taken advantage of the free Zoom account. Like I said, I used it for my listing, which is really important too, but I have even used it in my business world. So like I said, I'm on the Main Street organization. I told them, hey, I'll host it, because you can have up to, I think, 15 members on the Zoom call. I am even hosting, we're doing like a 10-year class reunion this year, and I'm hosting it. So I'm saying, hey, let me take this off everybody else's seat. I'll go ahead and schedule the Zoom call. So that is how I'm networking with the free Zoom account that we have. It just kind of, again, sets me apart in the business world, which helps people remember you.
That's great. And it seems like there might be a slight delay. And so for those that are watching, that seems to be happening. So we will work through that. All right. So when you're presenting virtually, and we'll pull up your presentation here in just a second, you talked a little bit about this, what works, but what doesn't work when you're presenting virtually? Because everyone makes mistakes, and I'm sure you've run into some funny things. So please share with us what you think is probably the do's and don'ts of virtual presenting.
I would say the first don't is just make sure that you're prepared, because if you're not prepared, it's not going to go very well. So like Michelle and I did today, I make sure that I am presentable. I make sure that everything's ready, set up. I actually log into Zoom a couple different times to make sure everything's set up the way I'd like. So that's the first do. The don't, like I said, is just don't pretend to be someone you're not. That's really all the don'ts I have for you, is just be yourself.
Absolutely. And then if your client's not you, so the clients that you did your buyers, so your buyers and sellers. And by the way, I want everyone to take note of that. I know we're talking about listing presentations today, but buyer presentations can easily be done. And Kayla will talk through that. We'll look at one of her presentations and what she's done with that, and why it's important to also do that with buyers. But some of them may or may not be as tech savvy, or maybe they're not used to this. Although I think after all of this is done, and I think everyone's going to be even more comfortable on video than ever before. But Kayla, what have you run into with some of your buyers and sellers and having to kind of coach them through technology?
Yeah, so what I do with them is I send them the link, and I just say, hey, log in, 5 to 10 minutes before I do get familiarized with the system. I kind of go over where you can see the stop and start video and the mute down at the bottom left, and that really helps them out. So they are ready for me when I log in, and we just are good to go. If they do have issues, I've talked them through on the phone, but for the most part, people are able to understand the Zoom.
Good. And I think this time may have motivated a lot of folks to upgrade their computers, because whether it's work at home situations or like this, or just communicating with family, they're probably finding that they were holding on to those old laptops from 10 years ago that just don't cut it anymore. So I think that's important that you're doing that. So approximately how much time per week do you spend creating new marketing pieces or presentations? I think it's important to talk about that. And while you're doing that, I'm going to pull up your listing presentation. But I think a lot of your peers on here are wondering, well, those take a lot of time, and I don't have the time. And so how much time do I invest? How do I balance that with all my other responsibilities? So I'd love for you to talk that through, and then I'll pull up your presentation right now.
Perfect. So I actually have 2 different calendars, and that's how I keep everything apart. I have my phone, which has my calendar for my appointments, but then I actually have a paper calendar, and I write down the topics that I want to talk about for marketing. So I will, on a day-to-day basis, I'll say, okay, this day I'm going to do a Facebook post. This day I'm going to do this. And throughout the year, as I think of those items, I will jot it down in my journal or in my notebook. So then that way I can pull it out, and it doesn't take very long now that I have that system. I would say designing and marketing maybe takes me, I probably do an hour or 2 each day, but that's because it's a passion for mine. And with Canva, it is super easy to use. So I can literally design something within minutes. So yeah, I'm saying 2. And so total, like 5 or 6 hours a week. But again, it's a passion, and I actually do marketing for other platforms as well, like with Street and things like that. So it may take someone less time
Right. And that can be intimidating to some of you that are not necessarily as skilled or have the aptitude or even the want to learn some of these tools, and that's okay. There's always the potential of outsourcing. There's also a lot of you have resources in your own companies and your own offices that can assist with these tools. And then keep in mind, we have things like the buyer and seller guides that are located. Right now, we still have Launchpad. We are going to merge that with Max Center, but you can access the buyer seller guides that are in Launchpad resources. And I'll actually include those in the follow-up after this session, just so you can have those as the basics to get started. But Kayla has a talent for this. And as she said, she loves doing this. And this is something that I noted about her when I first met her a few years ago, that it's definitely, and also the reason why I wanted to ask her to be on this particular session. So what I'm showing right now is Kayla's seller action plan. So this is her listing presentation that she's also now doing virtually. So I'm going to have Kayla talk through, as I go through each slide or each page, I'm going to have you talk through sort of what the creative process was behind that, and then how you're speaking to that on the virtual as well as in the past, the live presentations. So let me go ahead and start with the cover page. Nicely done. And how that, and by the way, and just so everyone knows, she created this in Canva. And we'll go ahead and have you talk through it, Kayla.
Yeah, so the seller's action plan, actually, if you take note of the Launchpad one, they have one very similar to that. I just actually recreated using the look of what is in Launchpad. All I did was add the compliments of, and then put my name and my website, and I believe I changed the photo. So you can have something really similar to that already, that's already in Launchpad if you're not as tech savvy or whatnot. So.
Okay. And let's talk about your bio page, which is very impressive.
Thank you. So what I did with that is I tried to make it look like a resume, because as we go on listing and buyer appointments, I mean, that's what we're doing is we're trying to gain business and they are trying to hire us. So I wanted it to look like a resume and include some of my skills and awards, some affiliations that I have, just so then that way they have an idea of who I am on the business level.
And all your community involvement is there. It's very impressive. So it's interesting, everyone. I had a conversation with Kayla yesterday about this, and I think a lot of you have been in this situation where you get a referral, or maybe you've got a close friend or family member that just calls you directly and says, hey, I want to sell my house. Can you come over? And what's really important is that you go over there and you prepare. So Kayla is going to talk through some of that, because she is doing, after just 5 years in the business, has a number of referral business, a very high percentage of referral business. But Kayla, talk through what your approach is to your presentations, no matter who it is.
Yeah, so I do have I would say 85 to 90% of my business is probably referral. I really don't get a lot of new business, because most of it is off of either past clients that are coming back to me or past clients that have been referred to me. And I actually have my best friend's house listed right now. And what I did with her was exactly what I would do with any other seller. So I say that consistency is key. If you're going to do something for a $500,000 listing, you better, you might as well do it for a $180,000 listing, because you never know who behind that $180,000 listing could potentially refer you more business. That could be higher end even. So it's important to keep everybody on the same playing field. I use this same exact seller plan for my friends, family, everybody, just because again, it's consistent. And then if they're impressed, they're going to show this off to their friends and family.
Absolutely. That's important, because like you said, that in itself, just showing that you're professional and you know the business and you're an expert, that right there will win you business all day long. So that's important. I've heard stories from some of your peers that have gone into these presentations and not gotten the listing from good friends because they weren't prepared, because they just assumed they had it. And that's where this really is important. So that page looks great. Let's talk about your testimonials page.
Yeah, so these are just a few testimonials, and as you see, it says more testimonials can be found at kaylawigent.com. So that is my Bouge website that I have set up, and I actually hyperlinked this, so then that way I can, when I give it as a PDF, they can actually click that kaylawigent.com and see more testimonials. So that's really important if you are doing anything with virtual, that when you send it out, that you know, include those hyperlinks so it's easy for them to find.
It looks great. And so these testimonials you pulled from which locations?
Um, these specific ones, I actually reached out and asked them for the testimonials.
Okay.
But when I ask for testimonials, I do it with every single transaction. I'm just like, hey, can you send me, you know, some feedback or a review? And then I use a couple different platforms. I'll use Facebook a lot of times because that helps. I will use Google reviews because that helps increase everything with your website. And then I also like to use the realsatisfied.com. So I kind of mix it up on which one I use.
That's great. That's important for everyone to note. I know that Zillow is a big place for real estate reviews. However, Google and having a Google My Business profile, you get favored in results and rankings if you have a profile and you have reviews on them,
Yeah.
as well as Facebook business page. And just so everyone understands that on both Facebook and Google reviews, the person writing the review for you does not have to have a specific role. They do not have to be a buyer or seller. You could have another small business owner write a review for you. You could have your broker owner write one for you. You could have anyone that you've just ever done business with, or maybe you serve on a committee with, could write a review for you, as well as clients. But that's great, Kayla. Okay, so let's keep moving through here. So this is the story about her brokerage. So let us know what your approach was to this.
I just took this from Remax. I took it from Jeremy and Angela, but I do feel like it is very important for my clients to understand my company's mission statement and the history. In one of my recent listing presentations, one of the questions that I was asked is why he should go with Remax as a franchise instead of a locally owned business. So it was very important to me that I share my company history with him to let him know that we are still very local. My office is locally owned, and they, you know, live at Tri Lakes, and I was able to give them the company history. So
that's incredible. It looks really, really nice. And that's important. So, and that's why a lot of you join Remax, to have the brand power, the brand history, the brand strength, but each office is independently owned and operated, and you get to operate at the local level. So Kayla talks about some great points in talking about the worldwide network, but making sure that your clients know that you know the local area, that you're not just part of some big company, that you're going to focus on them and make it personal. So this tool is really fantastic that you've got in your presentation right here. So I can't stress this enough. Can you let everyone know where they can find this document? Because we get asked this a lot.
yeah, so I actually needed to pull up the newer one because I had the 2018 still in my presentation. So I pulled it up this morning, and I went to, it was on Launchpad, and I don't remember the folder it was under though. You'll have to remind me.
That's okay. So if you go in Launchpad and resources, and you'll be able to find this in the future and with the Max Center integration we're going towards, but on Launchpad under resources, you can just type in the industry, the keyword industry, and it should flag this document that will show up. You can also just go under listing presentation, and you'll have all kinds of tools. So in the resources folder in Launchpad, for those of you at INTEGRA, if you're not at INTEGRA, I'm sure you can find this in your resources in Max Center as well. So this is great. This is a great way to illustrate this. I know what a lot of you are thinking. You might be thinking, well, clients don't really care about this, or I don't really talk about this because it takes too much time. If you put it in your brochure the way Kayla has done, and especially if when they get this in their own hands as their own copy, they will read through all of this, and if they'll glance through it and they'll do all of that. Now, Kayla, can you explain the process of do you share this with them ahead of time, or do you explain to everyone how you present this to them and when you actually give them a copy of it?
Yeah. So I would say that my listing and buying presentations that are virtual, like what we're doing now, is very similar to what we're doing now. I do not give a handout prior to me actually meeting with the client, much like how I would if I were sitting down with them and at an actual table. I send them the Zoom link and I make sure that they can get on and we are discussing. And then what I do is I share my screen like Michelle did with us, and I will go through everything with them in detail. And then I send them the PDF afterwards.
And that's great. Mm-hmm. And then do you have a copy of everyone? So Kayla had some buyer's guides printed, and I don't know if you have one handy there to show everyone, and she's going to be working on getting her listing presentation printed up as well. And sometimes the information changes year to year, but if you can show everyone what you have there and talk through the printing process.
So this is my buyer's guide, which I don't see myself, so hopefully you can see.
I can see it, yes.
Okay, perfect. So this is my buyer's guide that I've created. It's actually for our company, so it's a little bit more standard for everyone. And I did make it where it's a very classic material. So even though things do change from year to year, the information does not. Oh, thank you. Now I can see myself. So again, we put the industry, that one does change, but it doesn't change enough for it to be invalid when you change, a year or two from now. So I just put information as far as what we do as in the community, how we're miracle workers. I'm not going to go through every single thing. I actually got this from the creative page. And
yes, I've seen that one. It's nice.
So, but we have information on financing. I have the rules and expectations in here. It's a great source. There's questions to ask the lender. So it's just a really great information source. I actually explained it last night as a encyclopedia for a buyer. So then that way, when they're looking for something, they can reference back to this, even if it's at 11 o'clock at night. The way that we conducted this was, let me find it. So we had vendors actually pay to be in this, to put ads in it, and that's how we paid for this whole booklet. So they paid, here's an ad that we used. So they paid, I think it was like $200 or $300, and then we were able to purchase, I believe, 500 copies. So all we had to do from Remax Integrity was pay for the shipping cost, which was like $80. So all of these were completely free, and we just are able to use them then for our buyers.
And you'll take that same approach to the listing booklet as well?
Yes. So I am going to get that one printed. That one's more personalized for me. So if I decided to get the vendors to make it more cost effective for myself, I would reach out. However, with this one, I probably won't look for vendors. I'm going to leave it more to myself. But I also got a quote from a local business. It was going to be for 50 of them. I think it was like $125. So it wasn't bad, but it also isn't a 40-page, like this is 40 pages. My one that we're viewing now is I think 15. So that kind of helps too.
Well, first of all, I hope you're all taking notes, because that is very exciting, and it's a great way to approach and be cost effective with a very professional tool, is to involve your preferred partners. I know, of course, you have to adhere to and comply, whereas you're not featuring just one of every one or focusing on just one. I mean, you want to open that option up to as many of your preferred partners as possible. I think it looks fantastic. Kayla, I'd love for you to share that PDF of that document. Now, she did not create that one in Canva, correct? And what was the creative process behind that?
That one was before I was opened up to the wonderful world of Canva. So I know it's in a PDF format now. I think I did it it was either in InDesign or Word. It was a Microsoft product, but I can't remember what it was exactly. So, but I'll definitely share with you.
Publisher, perhaps?
Yes, I think it was Publisher.
Publisher, okay. So just so everyone understands, those are definitely much more advanced programs. You might be better off outsourcing at least the initial design of it, but giving you maybe an option to edit it here and there. So that may be the route you have to go. But again, Kayla, this is her area of expertise. And we're not saying you have to go out and take classes on how to create these documents, but I think it looks really nice. So we'll make sure everyone gets a copy of that, and hang in with us, everyone. We're going to have a Q&A session here in just a moment. I'm going to pull up her presentation here again, and we're going to have her complete the discussion on it, because I really want you to see some of the cool things she's got in here. So let's move to the next page. We've got roles and expectations. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. And there you go.
So I just implemented this one into my listing presentation about a month ago. And I really like this. We did a momentum class for this, just talking about what the roles and expectations should be as the listing agent and as the seller. So this is great because it just shows those expectations to your clients up front of what they can expect from you and what you expect from them.
And I like the use of the word integrity, as you are Remax Integrity.
Yes.
And I know Angela and Jeremy and your whole team is watching, so shout out to everyone at Remax Integrity. All right, and this is really a great approach, because not only it is, here's what you get from me, but here's what I expect from you, but more importantly, how you get to be involved in the process, right? Okay, so let's talk about the 7-point marketing plan.
Yes. So again, I just implemented this into my business a few months ago as well. But as I was going with my listing appointments, I would normally talk about my marketing process for the home. However, I didn't have it in writing. And after a few higher end listing appointments here recently, I felt like that was something I needed to add. So I wanted to make sure that they had this in writing, showing that, especially with the sales program, what all I was offering to them as far as a virtual tour. I do a lot of custom things, like I do a custom URL with their, well, actually I have it right here. So right here, I think you can see the whole thing. I do a custom URL for all of my listings. So then that way, oh, thank you. So what I do is this is the address. So it's 4816 hatfieldroad.com. I put this on their rider, the top of my sign. So then that way they can, we can actually track who is going to this website. And I just forward it to the listing page off of my Bouge website. But I do a lot of I do things like that for my clients just to show them what they're getting as far as their value out. But again, I never had it written down. So I felt like the marketing plan was pretty important. So then that way they could see exactly what they're getting from me.
Okay, and can you explain to everyone the process of securing those domains and approximately what your yearly spend might be on those?
Absolutely. So when I first started this, I was newer with websites and I thought I was going to be overwhelmed, but it's actually pretty easy. So I went to GoDaddy.com, which is where I host my KaylaWigent.com, and I typed in, the 4816 Hatfield Road.com. And it was listed for sale. So I bought it for, I think it was $12. So between that, and then I think I get the plastic signs because they're a little bit more cost effective. But between that and the URL, I'm spending maybe $30 a listing for a sign for my writer, and then for the actual URL. So on average, I just looked this morning, so then that way I could tell you, I've only spent $250 for the last 3 years for GoDaddy URLs.
And that's great. And then you just let them expire after the year is up, correct?
Yes, exactly.
And again, I think some of you have had discussions with personally about managing domains. And I know some of you have quite a few. So I think that this is a really good approach. Remember, there's single property websites and Design Center you can do this with. So there's a lot of options. So I think that's fantastic. Thanks, Kayla. Absolutely. All right, let's pull up the rest of it. And let's go back. Okay. You brought up an interesting point, Kayla, and I think a lot of your peers feel the same way, that you kind of, you know what your presentation so well that you just go through it, you talk about it, you walk through the home, you give them their checklist, but it is important to put it in writing. No more time than ever than now, because of the fact that you can't be with them. And the communication piece of it, even though you can record these sessions, which we are recording this one, it's not the same, right? They need to go back and have something to reference.
Exactly. People really like being able to actually look through this and saying, oh, this is what she had said. I might have forgotten that. Kind of like we just had our home completely remodeled, and it was really important to me when I was going through that remodel process to look back at that quote and say, oh, this is exactly what we had agreed upon. It's about the same thing.
Of course. All right, let's move through the rest of this. So it looks like you've got 2 pages for this. So we've got, this is fantastic. Again, Kayla's going to share the PDF and we will share it afterwards. So let's talk through this. Now, for those of you here at Remax INTEGRA, you know that we just entered a partnership with Remax 360. So it's a 360 tour product. And I will send you a link if you haven't seen all the emails about it. There's a whole article on our blog about it. But Kayla's going to talk through how she and her team uses Matterport.
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually have looked at the Remax 360 as well, and we're weighing the pros and cons at the moment. I think in the day and age we live in right now, no matter what you use, whether it's the Matterport or the 360, it is very important to have a 3D virtual tour for the brokerage. Personally, I feel that way because I know that I have gained listings from this. We get our professional photography through this. And in the day that we live in currently with the current pandemic, this is important because with my listings, we are having less people actually walk through the home until they're actually prepared to potentially make an offer because they're able to walk through first with the virtual tour.
Very good point. And the Matterport camera, as Kayla and I talked about yesterday, those can be very pricey. So if you have one, you may not want to not be using it. So you want to take advantage of that. So let's talk about this. I love this particular section.
Yes. So for me, because I am very much a marketing person, it's important to me to see where I'm getting my return on investment with my properties. So I feel like that is important for my clients as well. So this is an example of what Booge has to offer as far as the detailed listing reporting. So in Booge, that's where I got this little screenshot. You can actually go in and set your seller up for seller reports, and it will tell them and where everything is coming and how they're tracking where people are seeing the listings.
This is good. And for some of you might be using other tools, and that's perfectly fine, or your companies have other tools for you, whether it's List Hub or you're using other tools that you have available to you through the MLS. But this is a great example of how you can show some analytics. And Kayla being, as she said, the marketing expert, having these type of stats, you may have clients that are very much statistics persons or people, and they may really enjoy this. But even if you're not, I look at this because I wouldn't consider myself a numbers or stats person, but I look at this and this really does resonate with me, and it's impressive, just the overall presentation of all of this. So yeah, it's a great thing to look at. Let's talk through Google Analytics. Google Analytics to some of you still seems kind of intimidating as well, like some of these other features, but Kayla, talk how you use and speak of Google Analytics so that your clients understand it.
Yeah, I personally love Google Analytics. I love it because I can then see, again, what my return on investment is for my website. So this is off of the kaylawigent.com, and then where you see the pages down at the bottom, it says 1 through 10. Those are the different pages that people are clicking on. So for this time, it looks like the number 1 was one of my listings that I had on Elm Street. So for them, it's really important for your listings to see this because that's shows how many people are actually driven to the website on a weekly basis, which again is these sign writers. I'm able to say, hey, people saw this sign writer and went to that website off of it. So for this listing, or for this week, it looks like I had 59 people on that personalized website. So a lot of people like that because again, it shows them that you mean business and that you're actually getting views.
And absolutely, this is the best way to really illustrate and to start using the term virtual showings or virtual viewings, because you have sellers who will get, especially now, they're wondering, how is anyone ever going to see my home? Or even before this, when no one was physically walking through their home, they might have been getting a little frustrated. And you have these type of stats available to show them. Today, it's all about virtual viewings. People look at your listings several times before they actually physically come to see it. And nowadays they're taking steps to just maybe not even see it if they're in a position to buy sight unseen. But this is a fantastic tool. There are other tools in the Remax system, the Remax URL Shortener, which we've talked about on past webinars. We talked about it last week with our guest last week, about taking the URL of your website or of the single property website and putting it into the URL tracker, so that whenever you feature that link anywhere, you can see analytics like this. You can see how many clicks, you can see where they came from. Google Analytics is definitely a little bit more advanced, and I encourage you to jot a note down to maybe go to YouTube and Google or look for Google Analytics videos. There's tons of them out there that will help you understand this tool a lot better. What you basically do is you take the domain name of your website or your single property website, and you will sign it up for a Google Analytics account. It's free. That's the best part. Okay. Talk about this. This is my absolute favorite page, as Kayla knows. I was so excited to see this. So Facebook ads. It's one thing to say, hey, I do Facebook ads, but it's another to, and I think Kayla's taken it to a whole new level. So talk through what this is and how you explain it to your clients.
Absolutely. So it was important to me to show my listings, my sellers, again, how I'm working for them. So for each listing, I set aside an X amount of money to do Facebook promotions, whether it's, I believe it's not called boosting anymore. It's through Facebook ads, through the ads manager. But this actual image shows, I'm sorry, I'm trying to see where it shows. It shows how much I've paid on this link. So I screenshot it just to show them, right? Well, not really. I can't find it now that I'm looking at it.
I'm not seeing that either, but you could certainly mention it to them. So
absolutely. So I mentioned that I, pay for the advertising on Facebook, which again helps people get more views. So for this one, it just shows how many people reached it within a certain time frame. And again, I usually do it within a week just to see how many people are viewing on a weekly basis. So
yeah, this is so key, everyone. I mean, again, your clients, first of all, we know what happens. The minute you activate their property in the MLS, they start looking for it. They look for it on Zillow, on Remax.com, and all these different places, right? And of course, they notice when it's not there. But they also will be looking to see what you're doing in the way of social media. So it is important to talk about what your reach is, how many followers or how many likes you have on your page, and the amount of exposure, the eyes that will be upon this. Also make mention of the fact that you're friends with how many Remax agents across the country that could potentially have clients that could see this as well. So I think Kayla did a fantastic job of illustrating this and showing the stats that come along with the Facebook ad. She and I talked about this yesterday. Your competitors are not doing this. So let's be really clear about that. They're not. They might say, okay, we do social media, we do this, we do that, but taking it to this level. So I really have to applaud and give kudos to Kayla on this, but your competitors aren't doing this, are they, Kayla?
No, they are not. I mean, you can see because this one, people have noted, people who aren't even my friends have friend requested me, and I've gotten buyers off of sponsoring ads. So I know that it's being reached because when I ask, and it's very important to me when I ask my buyers and sellers how they got a hold of me, so I can input that into my data. So I actually have gotten 2 or 3 buyers just from Facebook advertising.
Incredible. Good for you. And then once again, this is a really nice touch on this particular slide. Remember, she sends this PDF to her clients afterwards for them to follow her page, and that'll also increase likes and views and everything else. So the next page is the way she illustrates comparables.
So I felt that this is very important because a lot of my clients like to see it how an appraiser would set it out. So I actually do this section just in my MLSs. It's Upstar's. I use their database for that. But again, they really like it because down at the bottom, you can see the adjustments and things like that for the homes.
Very nice.
On this page, hold on just a second, right there. So where it says the click here to view property or view photos, I make note of that, especially right now. Again, I hyperlink it because a lot of people they like to be nosy and they like to see inside of these homes. So one photo for them usually doesn't work. They want to see more. So I send this out even when I'm doing an actual listing presentation. I'll say, hey, I'm going to send this out and you can actually view the photos of the inside. A lot of sellers like that.
And I'm sure it's a great way to really tone down those listing, the price objection of, or I should say the dispute and the discrepancies between what they think it should be versus what you think it should be, and maybe hopefully diffuse some arguments before or debates before they start.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you have the numbers to back it up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then here's a nice summary report here. And see, when you put stats like this into a listing presentation, see, if you sent this to someone ahead of time, they might look at this and it may not make sense to them. So that's why it's great that, Kayla, you do go through this with them. And then when they look at it afterwards, they have a better understanding of it.
Absolutely.
So it looks like you're illustrating each listing, active listing sheet for each comparable.
So I like to do that as well because, again, we have different, like I am a very detailed person, whereas somebody else may not be. So it's important to try to keep your listing presentation short, sweet, and to the point, but at the same time, try to adhere to every different personality as well. So some people are very visual learners, some people are not. So that's why I added in. And I normally don't go through these in detail. I just say, hey, you know, this is for your viewing after I leave, you know, if you'd like to view it more.
Of course. Looks great. This is a nice touch too, the map of the properties. And I'm sure you all do similar tools as that. Very good. Kayla, I'm so excited that I'm sure all of your peers are. Let's take some questions and then we'll wrap up with a couple of things. So let's see what we've got going here. So in the question and answer section, Valerie's asking, is the program called Canva? Yes, it's like the word canvas without the S at the end, C-A-N-V-A, canva.com. Rachel is, of course, asking for a copy. Everyone loves your presentation.
Thank you.
Yes, Mitch, and yes, Rachel will be providing a PDF. We've got a question about 3D tour options from Shannon asking, what are 3D tour options, Matterport or, let me see. Well, the one that we mentioned earlier was the Remax 360. So if you are part of Integra, we just entered our new partnership. I will include that link in the follow-up along with the recording of this session. And there are other options, but Matterport is very specific to the actual camera that you're using. Matterport, it does take longer for the shoot itself, and you do have to shoot multiple angles of each room and each hallway and each area. The 360 tour might cut down on some of that prep time. So we'd love to invite you to compare the two. As Kayla said, they are both using, they're using both programs. Mm-hmm. So Sandra wants to know, Kayla, how much you're spending on each listing for the Facebook ads approximately.
So it just varies per I would say the price of the listing. So for higher end listings, I'm going to spend more. I typically I'd say anything over 200, I'll spend around $50. Anything, I'd say 180 or below, I'm maybe spending $25. So. And
that's amazing because it's such a low investment for such a huge reach, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And like I said, one of the I've gotten a couple buyers. I think it's important to try and advertise for all of your listings, even if they are lower end, because you won't know what you don't know until you start advertising. I have gotten, there was one listing, I think I ended up getting 3 buyers off of it just from sponsoring ads on Facebook.
That's incredible. Good for you. All right. So someone's asking that, I love this, a lot of just various questions. So the recording, yes, you're going to get the recording and the file, the PDF file. You're very welcome, Anne. Thanks for tuning in. So one of the questions by Shannon is, when you do Facebook ads, how are you filtering it and who are you targeting?
Ooh, that could be a whole nother Zoom meeting over that. I don't know if I can briefly answer that, but I go through my Facebook ads. I think it's through the business page, and I do it differently per listing. I try to do a radius around the home because Facebook does, you know, you can't do the age and gender demographic anymore. So I don't know. I have it as a preset. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. I think it's a great question, but Kayla brings up a good point. Was it just about a year and a half ago that Facebook and Fair Housing had a clash on how ads were being, I guess, how the filters were being utilized? I mean, it was, you could drill down to the very, very most specific audience. And unfortunately, that didn't match what Fair Housing requirements are that you all know. So really, it's best to think in terms of geography when you're doing your reach on your Facebook ads, especially a lot of you do open house ads. So you can go 10 miles out, you can go 25 miles out from that particular property or certain zip codes. So I would definitely keep the focus there. And in that way, you're not making it too specific and your audience is broader. So that's a good question though. So we have Kay Farrow. I don't know your first name, but hello, Kay. Wants to know, the free account for Zoom is only 40 minutes. So on the Zoom meeting, right? That's 40 minutes. And then how many people at a time, Kayla, on your account that you have at a time?
I have had, I'm trying to think. I think I've had about 10 people on it, but I'm using the Remax one that that we have. I think is it Zoom Premium? So I think you can go longer. I think I've gone about an hour on those. So.
Okay, good. So it's important everyone understands, go through Max Center and click on the Zoom tile and sign up through there. If you're going to Zoom directly, you might be getting just the, what a consumer might get for the free account, which there is a limit on 40 minutes. And I think in that case, you can only do one-on-one on a meeting like Kayla and I are doing right now. I have a pro account for webinars, so I can host up to 500 people, which we have hundreds of you on here today. So it just depends, but go through Max Center to sign up for Zoom. So we're also getting a question. I think this was answered. When you hyperlink the photos, where does the link go to? So yes, we did answer that. Yep. Let's see. And he's also saying, I've gone to Remax and it's not premium. There should be a help section that you can go to, a frequently asked question on the Zoom accounts. So you may want to contact membership services at remax.net to inquire more about that, as Remax LLC manages that partnership. Okay, so those are some of the questions. Let me go back to the chat box because I think people are typing in there too. So let's go to the chat and let's see what we've got going on in here. You've got a lot of support. This is awesome. Okay, let's start at the top. So Cheryl's asking, first of all, she's saying, thank you, Kayla. I'm interested to know how you were introduced to the seller and are you competing with other agents for the listing? That's a great question.
Yeah. So for this specific seller that I've done the Zoom meeting on, I knew them personally. They were actually, again, a past client. So I met them a few years ago. I sold their first house and now I'm selling their second house. So that is a good question. I'm not competing with other agents on that one. However, if I were, I would still do it exactly the way I feel like I have a well-oiled machine now where I would feel comfortable to do the same listing presentation that I do with all my other sellers.
That's great. So when you're presenting to family and friends, you have to take off the family and friend hat and put on your realtor hat, right? That's how it works. You're getting a nice compliment from Dan in Madison. He loves your presentation. He said it looks great. And Cheryl says, I agree that it's a nice clean look. And so Kayla's going to share the Canva link with me to share it with all of you. And you should be able to drop it into your own account and edit it from there. So thank you, Kayla, for being so forthcoming with that. Yeah. So let's see. Yes, everyone's going to get a link to this. So we've got a question from Connecticut. I am with Remax Home Team in Connecticut, can you share the buyer guide? Yes. Also, the company she used to have vendors contribute. Let me know if you need my email address. Now, that wasn't a company, that was your personal relationships, was it not?
Yes, it was. So we went around to the different vendors and we said, hey, this is what we're putting together. I actually am the one that went around and said, this is what we're doing. Would you like to be a part of it? And I didn't really get anybody that said no. I think we had 4 or 5 different vendors that were like, yes, absolutely, we want to be a part of that. So I took that upon myself. However, if you have somebody at your office that is, if you're working as a team or whatnot, that you can find someone that would like to do that too. So.
Okay. So Erin, that's a great question. And it looks like it's a relationship business. So you can reach out to all those folks that you work with on a regular basis. And I think Kayla's correct. I don't know that anyone would turn you down, especially right now. And so you had in there, you had what, a State Farm insurance agent, you had a lender.
I have a lender, a home inspector, insurance, and title company. And
Okay.
then when I do the buyer presentation, I just say, hey, if you need another lender or I always say I can always get you other contact information, but these are just who paid to be sponsored in the ads.
Of course. And I think it goes without saying that you want to choose those partners that you know will match your level of service with your clients and who are reputable. And that's important, to choose the right people. Okay, so let's see. Thank you, Erin. That was a great question. Jim Lee, yes, we're going to share the template. Hey, James Abner, do you do the Matterport 3D tours yourself or hire them out? Do you get your photos from Matterport or do you shoot separate photos? So what do you do with Matterport?
So I actually do the photos myself. I am to the point where I will probably start hiring them out because I'm getting too busy to do them myself. I'm to that point in my career where I need to look at hiring an assistant and maybe training her or him to do the tours for me. But right now I'm doing them. They don't take that long. I'd say for a 2,000 square foot house, it maybe takes me an hour. So it's not bad. And then let me see. Do I get the photos? So I get the interior photos from Matterport because they are very professional looking. However, with my higher end homes, I do hire a professional photographer to come and do the exterior and do aerial photos.
Excellent. Marta wants to know where did you get the template to set up your comparables on those 2 pages? Did you just use columns when you set it up, or how did you do that?
So that I use through my MLS. We have like a CMA area, and it's in one. I think it was like the horizontal section I think it's like the horizontal graph, or I can't remember what it's called, but it was in the CMA portion of my actual MLS.
And then did you just take a screenshot of it and drop it onto the Canva page?
Essentially, yeah. I saved it as a JPEG and then put it in. So.
Okay, sounds good. So there you go, Marta. Let's see. Dave Gold, a lot of Zoom questions. With the account Remax gave us, we can have much longer meetings with multiple people. Thank you, Dave Goebel. He's near you. He's in Dave Goebel's Oak Crest Realty. All right. And then Dan Bertelson, you're very welcome. He says, many sincere thank yous for sharing these marketing tips. Great job, Kayla. Thanks, Dan. Rachel says, thanks. Jim Lee says, looks great. And Mitch is asking, how do you go about talking about more than one of your inspectors or your lenders or your insurance people that are in that booklet?
Sure. So I, like Michelle said, we chose people who fit our culture here at Remax Integrity. So it was very important to us to use a lender, a home inspector, etc., on the same people that would give the same personal touch that I would to my clients. When I give more than one, I usually at that point would send out an email just saying, hey, these are the 2 or 3 that I use. And I leave it at that. Honestly, I only refer out the ones that I've had the good communication with, and then they take it upon themselves on who they would like to choose. But at least that way I know that there's a few that I prefer.
Excellent. So you're getting a lot of great jobs and thank yous. I can't thank you enough. Box Brownie has been brought up a couple of times in some of the comments. And yes, Mitch, absolutely. Definitely seems appropriate to name more than one. Let me just check the Q&A box really quick. I see we're at the top of the hour, so we will wrap this up. Looks like we are in good shape. So Kayla, final words of advice, and what's the secret to a winning listing presentation in today's climate?
Honestly, just be yourself. There's a reason why they called you. You know, it's okay to mess up. Obviously, I've said probably 50 times on here, and that's okay because we're not all perfect and we're all human. So I just say be yourself, be authentic. Again, if you can, I would definitely make a clean looking presentation because it does go a long way, but just tell them exactly what you're able to do for them, and that's it.
Awesome. Well, Kayla, you're amazing and you're very talented, and I cannot thank you enough. So it looks like all of your fellow Remaxers are excited and grateful that you shared all with us. I'll send everyone a follow-up email. This was recorded. Everyone have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. Kayla, thank you so much. And I hope to see you all in person again someday soon. Thanks, Kayla. Bye.
Bye.